My name is Danielle Kirkus, and I am currently the Director of the Education Committee and the Committee Chair for the Marketing Mechanics Committee. Um, so to get started today, I do want to take a moment just to thank our sponsors. We couldn't put on these events or, provide the resources that we do without their support. So we always want to take a moment to, thank them for everything that they do for us throughout the year. Would also like to remind everyone that if you are not already subscribed and reading our newsletter or keeping an eye on our website and LinkedIn, we do have a lot of great programs planned for the upcoming year. We've got our annual meeting coming up tomorrow night. So hopefully we'll get to see some of you there. So please keep an eye on our social media. And then just a few standard requests as we get started. I know this does say that we would like everyone to mute their audio and keep their cameras off, but please, if you feel comfortable, keep your cameras on. I know Sandy and I would really enjoy seeing your smiling faces. And she does plan to keep this as more of an open discussion. So if you have a question, you can use the chat feature to type that out. But if you want to unmute and join the discussion, please feel free. As usual, we are planning to record this session today, and we will make the video available to each of you probably about a week from today, once we get that ready and uploaded for your viewing. And then just as a reminder, we do ask that you take a few minutes to complete the post-event survey. I know it's easy to forget to do that, but it just helps us so much to make sure that we're providing programs that are helpful for you all. And then without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce Sandy Geroux. Our presenter today is an international speaker, trainer, and author on creating wow experiences and exceptional performance. She has delivered very well received and highly rated presentations for 2 SMPS Build Business conferences, as well as for our own chapter. More than 30,000 attendees in 175 companies and 41 countries have been inspired by Sandy to help turn their workplace into a wow place. She is here today to share with us some great information, stories, tips, and ideas for recognizing and demonstrating our full value in business and in life. So please help me welcome Sandy Geroux. Right.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here. I am going to share my screen so that you can see my PowerPoint. I'll be taking it up and down as we go along because, as Danielle mentioned, I definitely want to have a conversation with you. So we'll be obviously sharing some content, but then I'm going to ask you to chat. And when I say chat, like she said, sure, you can put it in the chat box, but I'd love it if you unmute your mic, raise your hand, whatever, and then I'll call on you and then we can have a conversation so everybody can hear what you have to say, because it's a lot easier to do that than to type a whole big long thing into a chat. So anyway, today we're going to talk about recognizing and demonstrating your value in business and in life. And I want to start with a brief poll. So what I'd like you to do is, if you're on your laptop, please take out your cell phone because we're going to do the poll by phone. If you want to, you can open up a different browser window on your laptop or a different one on your phone if you're calling in on your phone. But what I'd like to do is have you go to menti.com. You see it at the top of the screen, menti.com. And then when it asks you for a code, use the code 3282152. And that way you'll be able to get in and you'll be able to see our first question, which we're just going to start out with. I know we're, in Central Florida, but what city are you located in? And there could be some people from outside the area too. So, okay, big ones from Orlando. We got some from Winter Park, Oviedo. I love this. Okay, Sanford. Wow. Okay. We have Lakeland. All right. Great. we have people from many different areas here. So I know you have a pretty good sized chapter and you had really good attendance today. So Lake Mary, we've got two, Oviedo. And what this is a word cloud, which you probably know, but in case you've never seen that, Hunter's Creek, that's where I used to live until a couple of years ago when I moved out toward the Tampa area. I'm in Wesley Chapel now. But the word cloud is the biggest word in the middle, means that more people have said that than other words. So the bigger the word, the more people who have answered that answer. So now we can see that we have 20 people who have answered this question. So I'm going to go on to the next one. You can always hop in and answer and catch up. Also, if you can't get to it right now, then Richmond, Virginia, I just saw that. Wow, welcome to Florida. Anyway, if you can't get to the poll right now, you can just jot down menti.com and the code, and then I'll keep the poll open for about an hour afterwards, and you can always hop in then. All right, so let's go to our next question. And already people are jumping in, which is great, saves some time. How long have you been marketing professional services? And look at this, they're all over the board again, but look, we have several in the middle, some more in the 10 to 19, and 7 people, 20 plus years. So we've got a lot of experience on this call. We've got also a lot of people who are new and can bring fresh eyes to the things that we, as veterans might not always see. So I just love seeing that we have this wide mix of experience. Now, how about this? Let's give a shout out to SMPS Central Florida. Give us one word to describe this, because guess what? I'm going to download these slides into a PDF file at the end, and I'm going to send it to Danielle and Terry so that they can share it all with you. And you guys can see all the answers for everything, but also SMPS Central Florida might be able to use this nice word cloud slide in their own marketing, because this is, hey, listen to what our own members talk about when they're describing their membership in SMPS Central Florida. So this is a great marketing slide for you guys, especially when you see things like awesome, amazing, educational, connections, resourceful. I love that. Okay, now what is your biggest strength as a marketing professional? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking this question later on as we get into the discussion. Love this. Organized, the organization, communication, trustworthy, versatile, strategy, positive, collaborative. I love these words, and you're going to see why and how, the reason why I'm asking you to really hone in on your strengths here now as we talk about your value later on. So optimistic, positive, I love that. Persistent, dedicated, supportive. Oh, and look at this, good listener. Really great things that you're putting in here for your personal values. And then briefly tell us how you recently wowed a client. I ask this because if you have something that really meant something to a client, share it with everybody, because then they can say, oh, I might not have thought about that as a strength or a benefit, but it really was. Or I kind of took it for granted that I did that. But you know what? This is something that creates a wow experience. So constant, clear communication, level of time and detail. You stepped up and went the extra mile. The response time, that comes in a lot. Quick response time. Look at how many times that's in here. This is typical of when clients say that they're wowed, or even by people not making them wait forever for an answer on something, or just a quick question. So I love this. Again, you'll be getting all of these things when I download the slides, so that then you can put it in. Now, let's talk about this last question. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? And you're probably thinking, what? Where in the world did that come from? Well, the reason I ask this question is because I don't care how much business, education, strategy, or whatever you're doing together, I always want you to remember that we are still people at heart. How we connect is heart to heart, person to person, interest to interest. This could create something that you could just say, oh my gosh, look at this. Fudge swirl. Oh, and somebody put moose tracks. Oh, I love moose tracks. I love the ones with the little peanut butter pieces and the little brownie pieces. Oh, well, you know what? I just love them all. I can't see anything on here that I don't like. But look at that. Chocolates in the middle. That's the most popular answer. Strawberry and vanilla are big as well. But this is a really great, by the way, if you ever wanted to use this, it's called Mentimeter, Mentimeter.com. They have a free package you can use, and I think you can use up to 5 slides on the free one. You're a little bit limited, but even the paid one is very inexpensive for the entire year. They not only have polling slides, but they have competitions with leaderboards and all kinds of stuff. That's in the paid version, but it's really cheap. You might want to check it out. So thank you so much. Remember, you can take this poll for up to about an hour after the program, and then I'll download all the answers and send them along. But thanks again for doing that. Now, let's talk about recognizing and demonstrating your full value. So I'm kind of organizing this in a few discussion points. The first one is, why don't clients always appreciate our full value? I mean, what's wrong? We do a great job. How come they don't appreciate it? I have a few thoughts, and then I'd like you to think about this as I'm, tweaking your minds about what could go wrong, and then be prepared to have a discussion. So first of all, when you're doing marketing, the buyers only know the true value of your services after they receive them, because now they know, did the marketing help or did it not? And sometimes it's months after they receive them. So what can we do to help them recognize the value a little bit earlier on? I want you to think about the answer to that and share your experience. Maybe there's also incorrect expectations. So they perceive that you've broken a promise. They expected this, you delivered that. That's what you planned on delivering, but they didn't realize it. So sometimes that happens. So you might need to be prepared to educate them up front and possibly all along. Now, sometimes because our projects are so long, we might not always be there, right? And they have to deal with somebody else, or even with phone calls. And do they have a bad experience with someone else in the firm? And that turns them off to everything. So no matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter. They're already aggravated. Or it's just much more difficult for you to recover from that. Or maybe they're just distracted. They're too busy. They're not paying attention to what you're doing. So it just kind of goes right by. So let's chat. And again, I don't mean, typing chat, unless you really don't want to speak, but I'm going to stop the share. Why don't clients appreciate our full value? What could happen in your experience? Who would like to start sharing? Why don't they appreciate what we do, or what's going wrong with the conversation? Anybody want to share that? Just go ahead and unmute. And I can't see everybody on the first screen, but if you want to open up your video as well, you could raise your hand. You can raise your virtual hand, things like that. I'm going to put up the participant screen so that I can see.
I think a lot of times they just don't have, everybody's really busy. And I think it's just out of the fury of the day-to-day, they have to get their job done.
Yep. So they just don't even have time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think because everybody is so busy right now and they're all focused on getting the job done, they're not really thinking about that, they need to validate, the hard work you put in.
Right. And, that's a lesson for all of us, even with our own staff, because look at how it feels when you say, we understand it with clients, right? You can't control them, and you do know, all right, well, it's probably that they're too busy. But think about that when you're talking about employee engagement, because when we talked about the internal customer service a few months back, whenever it was, one of the things that you have to be careful of is when you have a lot of people in the firm, or even just a few, and somebody has to interact with one of them, are they giving the wow experience too? It has to be consistent. It has to be a wow from every single person. And if they're never hearing an appreciation or a thank you or, wow, you did a great job, how do they stay motivated? So think about how you can just pass along the love, because you know how it feels not to get it. Anybody else? Is there any other reason why you think they don't appreciate it or recognize it?
They might not understand just how much effort is behind the documents that we produce, how much work is going into them.
Mm-hmm. And what can we do to kind of correct that? I mean, I agree. I think that sometimes it's like the figure skater in the Olympics. They make it look so easy. But coming down, spinning 3 times in the air and landing on that tiny little blade ain't easy. And it takes a lot of work behind the scenes to get it to look that easy. So what can you do? Does anybody have any suggestions? What have you done to help them recognize the work that goes into it? I don't want to wait too long. So I'll just, somebody here, somebody.
Yeah, Terry, I've found that if you include them along the way in the process, then they understand how much goes into it. So not just providing a draft and asking for comments, but including them in some of the decision making and, giving them options so that they can see, okay, well, a lot goes into thinking about, the end result. So.
Yes, exactly. That's a wonderful way to do it. Get their input up front, because when you help them create their own experience too, they know that they're involved, unless they don't want to be. You have to ask them up front, how much involvement do you want to have in this? Would you like to have some, approval authority, decision-making authority? Can I send you a little questionnaire up front about what your goals are, whatever it is you want to do? But involving them along the way is a great way to do it. Another way is to set milestones. So if you have a big, long project, instead of just saying, well, when the project is over, here's what we're going to do. Maybe you set milestones along the way and then just let them know, hey, we've reached this milestone. Here's the piece that we've got, and it's really looking great. Maybe you want to take a look at this. Let us know if you want anything. But if you just make sure that you're identifying those milestones up front and all along, creating celebrations along the way, that also helps them. So that's something that, we can think about. So a lot of times it is just that they're too busy, they're too distracted, they're not paying attention, but think of how you can get their focus at least for a minute or two on what you're doing, so they're not just not hearing from you for months at a time. And so what does that do? It raises questions in their mind about, are they even working on it? How are they doing? Do I have to go and waste my time now asking them how it's going? So just keeping in constant communication too can also let them know we're working on it, we're progressing, here's what we're doing, just giving them those milestones along the way. That really helps. Okay, so here's the thing. We're talking about whether or not they recognize our full value, but do we truly recognize the full added value that we bring to the table? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes we just don't even value, or we undervalue the things that we are, the things that we do, how we think. So we're focused so much on the end product and doing a great job with that, that we don't necessarily always take into account the things that we bring to the table outside of that. So it could be the standard things, like things you'll think about all the time anyway, your industry related benefits, like, and that you're marketers, you can position anything you need to the way you need to position it. So if you're in a large company, your positioning could be, you'll never find a time when we won't be able to, or during the work week or whatever, that we won't be able to answer your question, or at least answer the phone. Or if you're a small company, well, you'll never get more personal service than you will from us. So however you want to do that, maybe it's your availability or your reachability, or what about your connections and your network? Because that's a huge thing of added value. I want to share a quick story with you. When I was a realtor years ago, I was a top producing realtor, and I got so sick and tired of my people getting ripped off by tradespeople who were just gouging them terribly, not doing good work. I started creating a little list for myself of people I'd use, plumbers and electricians and contractors, people I had used that I trusted, and I accumulated quite a list. So I always shared that, especially with my sellers who, if they needed to get something done after an inspection, they would know who to call. Well, one day a lady called me up and she said this to me. She said, Sandy, do you know someone who does, and I can't even remember what it was. She says, I know this isn't real estate related, but do you know anyone? And coincidentally, I did. And she gave me the greatest compliment. She said, I knew you'd know someone. See, she was calling me for things that weren't even real estate related. Now, if she's calling me because she respects me and my network so much as a trusted resource when it doesn't even have anything to do with real estate, who is she going to call when it does have something to do with real estate? So same thing for you. You may have network connections, all kinds of things. Just let your people know. And I know sometimes we have to worry about the legalities of recommending any one particular thing, especially in real estate. I'm not sure, in your industry, there's probably a lot of that same kind of thing because you kind of circle around there, but you're in the marketing area. And maybe your network or your connections are something that you can capitalize on and say, look, I have a wide network. I mean, people even send their resumes to me and say, I'm looking for somebody who whatever, and my network is big. I helped a woman, somebody called me to do something that I don't even do. It was nursing, and it was very specific. And I didn't know anybody who fit that bill, but I said, you know what, I'll send it out to my network and ask if anybody knows. And bam, I couldn't believe it. One of my mastermind members' mother was a registered nurse who knew the product that they wanted to, has done training on it, was already in a position and had just left it, traveled all around Florida. I mean, all those things were what they were looking for. Within 48 hours, she had gotten a new job and they had gotten a new employee. She stayed with them 5 or 6 years. And I had no idea I knew anybody who could do something that specific. But I make the offer. I say no guarantees, but hey, maybe I can help you in some other way. Maybe it is your years of experience or your expertise. If you're new in the field, you can use your agency's years of experience and things like that. Maybe it's that you're always staying up on the cutting edge of things with your education and your ongoing training. Maybe it's the features that are offered in your business, like the technology systems that make it easier for people to communicate, get things solved. Maybe it's educational resources, or maybe it's your cost paired with your benefits. You don't want to just position yourself, obviously, as the low cost provider, but maybe it's the cost compared to the value, the ROI they get is incredible. So maybe it's that, or maybe it's your track record or your recommendations, referrals, all of that kind of stuff. Or maybe, here's what you want to think about, some personal benefits. Maybe it's your mindset. Maybe they love the fact that you have a champion's mindset, meaning I don't care what I throw at that person, they're going to find a way to figure it out. They always find a way. Maybe it's your self-confidence, or you're very easy to work with, or maybe you're very compassionate and caring, which is really, really important now with COVID going on so long. People need a little more compassion and caring because they're so stressed in other areas of their lives. If you can give them any kind of compassion, it's a benefit. Maybe you're multilingual and that's it. Or maybe you're just fun to work with. Again, when I was a realtor, I was showing some buyers a house one time, and they had some, like cubby holes or something for storage up above a closet, way up. And I'm waving my arms around like this, saying, hey, and there's a storage thing up there. And all of a sudden I felt like Vanna White on, on Wheel of Fortune or something. So I just turned to my buyers and I said, would you like to buy a vowel? They cracked up laughing. And they said, we love working with you. That's why we love working with you, Sandy. You are so much fun. I mean, how many people are not having fun in any part of their lives? So can you do something to help them have a little fun along the way? So again, let's chat. What are the things that you do? And this ties into what I asked you on the poll. What do you do that you think could be something that, I could really capitalize on that? I have a great sense of humor and maybe I can do it. So anybody want to chime in and say, what do you do that's different from what other people do? And how does that add a benefit to people working with you? Anybody? I know sometimes it's a little hard to think of those things on the spot. But think of what you put in that poll. Can you expand on that a little?
I can relate to the education and ongoing training, and then the technology, because that was my most recent wow, was that they didn't realize how capable I was with Adobe Illustrator. and I was able to give them some graphics that they had not expected. So,
Awesome. A little bonus that they never expected.
yep.
I love that. I mean, and just the things that you can do too to capture their information and help them with customer service online is huge. People love that because 66% of Americans say that one of the best things you can do for them online is save them time. So they want choices, options. Are there any, automated self-service things that they can do? Is there any place that they can go text, or are you available by text or social media or some other way? Do you also have in-person personalized stuff? Email, making sure that you're getting every single medium out there for them to be able to use to save them time. Anybody else?
Sure. This is Ashley. Definitely, probably my attention to detail, probably worrying too much. But recently, I challenged a team I was working with, and they realized that by taking my advice, they would actually avoid some risk that could cost some money. So that was that was pretty rewarding to have that happen.
I love that. And you can position that, if you could even get a testimonial from them about how that helped them, or from your team or whoever it was, about how you helped them avoid risk. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, we have to take reasonable and appropriate risks, but we always want to avoid the bad ones. That is a differentiation point that who thinks of those things? It's just like, oh, that felt really good. I'm glad I could do that. But who thinks of that as a differentiator? You need to think of every single differentiator that you have and the benefit that it brings to your people. Thank you for sharing that, Ashley. I appreciate it. Anybody else? That was a great example. And Terry too, with the digital stuff. Love that. Who else? Anybody? Okay. Well, if you think of something, let me know, but I'll go back and share the screen. And let's continue on because we only have an hour. I don't want to take too long. So you have two handouts that I had sent along. One is a little foldable page that you can use to just take notes in, or just remind yourself of the points that are here. The other is a worksheet. And that is the one I want to just focus on right now for a minute. We won't do this now, but as I mentioned, we often undervalue ourselves. So when you're talking about how you bring added value, I want you to think about the tasks that you do for your clients and list them down, like maybe up to 10 or so to start with, even just 4 or 5 to start, and then get up to as many as 10 if you can. But then I don't want you to think about just the task. You don't stop there. You think about, well, how do I do it differently? Okay. How do I do it better? Like if you're creating marketing campaigns, maybe you personally meet with all the potential clients or something, or maybe you have something else, some electronic thing that you can do that helps you get to know their needs better. Maybe you have a background in these kind of things. So you might help determine the pricing of client products and services. And maybe because you served as a construction manager for X number of years, or you have 30 years of experience in the industry, you can help them price their products better, or maybe just communicating. So how is it that you do it differently? What is different about you when you do that? And then more importantly, on the right-hand side, what is the benefit or the value that's added by your doing it that way? And all you have to do to try to get to that is think, okay, here's what I do, here's how I do it, and here's why I do it that way. So why do you do it differently? Why do you do it that way? Well, because you've learned over the years that that creates the best results. What results does that create by you doing it that way? So I want you to think about that. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask or share? But fill out, not now, but fill out that, that sheet. And that's going to help you identify your own full value the best as well. So let me stop the share for just 1 second. Anybody have any questions, or want to share how you do something differently that makes you get more results or better results? Anybody have anything? Okay. So then let's go on to this next point. How do we overcome perceived slights or simply a lack of appreciation from others, like when we're not hearing anything, how do you overcome that? How do you keep yourself motivated? I'll just get a couple of ideas, and then I have a couple of ideas of things that you could do or could not do. So anybody want to share how, when that feeling comes on you, what do you do? What do you think? How do you get out of that? Anybody want to share? I know that's a little personal, but it's up to you. If you want to, you could even chat, type chat. Yes.
Tough. I think I mainly just, sorry, remind myself of why I do it. And it's never for the thanks. So that's the main thing. I just take some time, you know, if it's, I mean, unfortunately in this industry, I know most everybody can relate. I just kind of I set my expectations low for appreciation anyway, but
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it does sting a little, and yeah, I just take a moment to, you know, remind myself and go over why I do it, and, you know, and what I gain from doing a good job. So
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I mean, these aren't exactly always warm, fuzzy kind of people, right? You're in a tough industry, hard industry, you know, where people just, you know, get the job done. And it's tough to do that. So I love that. Just remember why you're doing it in the first place. Anybody else? What do you do?
So one thing that we do at my firm, we have a pretty large marketing team spread out across the US. So we often cross-share work and help each other out. And that's pretty helpful with different time zones. So sometimes you can use that to your advantage. And when we meet monthly as a marketing team, we always take a moment to kind of like express our kudos. So even if we're not getting that appreciation from our clients, maybe as much as we'd like, we are like, you know, saying how much we appreciate the help of our team, whether that's, you know, a graphics person that helped or someone that jumped in to help like format resumes. You know, it could be like something really small, but it made your day and it made your work easier. And so we always take a moment to, you know, share that appreciation. I think that goes a long way.
Oh, thank you. That is huge. You know, if the clients aren't doing it because they're too busy or whatever, or they're, you know, hey, nobody ever did that for me. They didn't tell me attaboy, attagirl, you know, I didn't need that, you know, but if the clients aren't doing it, then you can do it for each other. And by the way, if you have the opportunity to CC somebody's manager or supervisor on that, you know, like put it in an email too, or a text, and CC somebody and let their leader know that they've done something really good for you. Not only does that feel good personally, but it also feels really good for the leader to know, because the leader may be too busy to even recognize that that person on the team helped out over here, and they may not even know. So it goes by the wayside, and that helps them. Here's one thing that a fellow speaker of mine told me he did. He learned this from his mentor, and I thought this was absolutely fabulous. When we think about the great things that people do and we want to thank somebody on our team, you could just give them a thank you card or a thank you note or a little letter or a gift card and a thank you card. But what he did was he took the thank you card and the gift card he was going to give the person on his team, and instead of giving it to her directly, he mailed it home to her husband and children. And he put a note to them that said, I just wanted to send you this because your mom is so awesome. We wouldn't be as successful as we are if it weren't for her doing what she does every day. So would you mind giving her this thank you card and gift card on our behalf and let her know how much we appreciate her? I mean, how awesome is that? How many of us have spouses, significant others, children, family members who have no clue what we do or how good we are at it, right? So how much did that amp up her pride in her work to get that from her husband and children so that they could see how great she is? So I don't know if you like that idea, but I loved it because we can do so many things for each other if we just think of ways to give the kudos that we're not getting and to try to get them as well. Anybody like that idea? I really like that one. Okay. Let's continue.
I love
on.
that, Sandy. That's really a great idea. And
Oh,
certainly, you know, that's the over and above that really, and something that you said a while ago about the, you know, you're the go-to for a lot of people. You know, that can really benefit not only just you, people will pay you back for that too. I mean, whenever you need, you know, quote, a favor or whatever, people will remember that you know, went that's another extra mile thing to use your network. I mean, we all should have a ginormous network with in the industry, you know, just because of our job titles. And for I'm business development, but you know, my kids, my oldest daughter just said something yesterday. Okay, so it's like playing Candyland for mom to answer a question, but there's no other network. I mean, she may get, you know, finally get around to it, but if you need something, she's the go-to, or she'll know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So phone a friend.
Yeah, there you go. 6 degrees of separation, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Floyd. I appreciate you letting me know you like that story and for sharing that, because I mean, just sometimes your network, people, they really do appreciate that. And just expanding your network and nurturing it like that, and just doing things not because you expect something in return, but just because you want to do it, but you know that if you do need something, because you've been good to them, they're going to want to be good for you, you know, to you. So it's huge to just think about, how do I expand my network? Because that could be the added benefit that that one client needed and they couldn't find what they needed. They came to me and I helped them find that one thing. I may never have gotten paid for it. I may never have gotten any benefit out of it other than I helped my client, but they will be grateful forever because they might have been looking for a long time for that. And bam, there you were with the solution. So you don't have to provide the solution all the time. You might just need to provide the connection that helps them get the solution. And that is a huge added value. So that's what we do. One of the things that I also like to do is, if you can, if you do have referrals and recommendations, one of the ways I overcome that feeling of, oh my gosh, you know, is it really, do they appreciate it? I just have to say, stop. And then what I do is I go back and I look at my previous testimonials and I just reread a few of those. And I'm reminded not only why I do it, like what Terry said, but also that some people do appreciate it and can express it. And it just makes me feel good. Instead of focusing on all the negative, it helps me focus on the positive things that have come out of my work and what I've done. And that is tremendous. And sometimes you could even just call a past client just to say hi, and they will be so happy to see you. You'll just get energy from them because they love you and they're willing to express it. So reading testimonials, calling them just to say hi, didn't, you know, want to interrupt your day, but I just thought of you today, and I love your smiling face, and I just wanted to say hello and have a quick chat, see if there's anything that you need, whatever. But that will lift you up as well. Okay, so that's some of the things that we can do. Now, here are some self-leadership techniques that we can use. First of all, when we're talking about worth, let's remember that there are two sides to the worth coin, I call it. Okay. First of all, there is worth, which is the value equivalent to that of something or someone under consideration by someone else. Okay. It's the level at which someone else is going to value the thing, or in our case, the person. So worth is what someone else says or believes you're worth. These could be things like, you know, worth hiring again, or worth paying whatever, or a position if you're an employee. It's what your salary is. So that's your worth, right? But then there's another side to the worth coin, and that is self-worth or self-esteem. And this is our confidence in our own worth and abilities, or our self-respect. So self-worth is what you say or believe you are worth. And we never have to, you know, buy into somebody else's correct or incorrect beliefs, because a lot of times they are incorrect. They don't realize all that you do. Or what about this? might not be that they don't realize, but sometimes we have to just say, take it from the source. You know, are they ever satisfied? Is this a person who is never satisfied with anything, or at least they don't express satisfaction with anything? So maybe they are happy with it, but they just can't give it to you. They just can't give you the kudos. Maybe we need to sometimes just take it as a compliment that we're still there, you know, that they're still hiring us. And that is their expression of their appreciation. They're expressing it with their wallets. So you wouldn't be there if they didn't appreciate what you had to offer. So sometimes that's all we need to do. Just think about who these people are. Like we just said, in this industry, there aren't a lot of times when people either have the time or the personality or the experience, the whatever, to be warm and fuzzy. And we just know that about them. I know when I go to certain audiences, I'm going to get tons and tons of laughter and participation. And I know that other audiences are going to appreciate it, but they just don't express it. In fact, I had an experience one time where I had an audience where people were appreciating. I was telling something really funny at the time, and everybody was laughing, but there was one guy right in front of me who was just sitting there like this, didn't even crack a smile. And I'm thinking, my goodness, how is he not even laughing? That's funny. Everybody else around him is rolling on the floor and he's just sitting there. So, but you can't focus on that. So I just went along, did my thing. After the program, that man came up to me and here's what he said. I almost fell on the floor. He said, that was the funniest presentation I ever saw and heard. And I was like, really? I mean, could you laugh? Or I didn't say that to him, but I was thinking, wow, could you have cracked a smile to me? But it just goes to show me you never know what's going on inside just from outside with some people. So don't start doing things like making up stories in your own mind. That's what I was doing. There are times I'll be freaking out inside thinking, what in the world is going on here? And it's nothing like what it looks like. So remember, especially if we're doing prospecting and things like that, trying to get new business, remember that silence doesn't mean that you're no good or that they don't appreciate what you have to do, or even that they don't want to hire or rehire you. Because you know, sometimes it takes a while for them to make a decision on a proposal, right? But it might have a long time before you hear from them. And what's happening in your mind? They didn't like the proposal. It's too much money. Maybe I should go back and do something. Did we have a bad conversation? I thought the conversation went okay. All these things are going through our minds, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. So does anybody besides me do that? You know, these thoughts come in your mind and you have to fight that. Anybody have that happen when you don't hear anything? Oh, thank you. I see the chat now from RLF web conference that you love that idea. Thank you so much for letting me know that you like that. Anybody else? Like what?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think we
We're
all,
human.
we all must have that happen at least from time to time. I mean, I go back through and I'm like, well, you know, he said he wanted this and that's what I did. And I even gave him this other option, thinking, you know, but he hasn't gotten back to me. And, you know, so of course, you know, that's definitely, you know, one of the things you have to overcome.
Yeah. And what do you do? Like, how long do you wait? Anybody, how long do you wait? Marissa England, I think I saw your hand raised digitally, but I'm not sure if that was an accident because it came down. So if you want to share, please let me know. But what do you do? Like, how long do you wait if somebody hasn't responded to a proposal, and how do you tap them back? You know, without being a pest, but what do you find to be successful? Do you have any tips for that?
Me personally, I do a lot of graphics work for our company. I don't do a lot of proposals and stuff, so I kind of have a different perspective. But that is like for the folks that are doing proposals and stuff, they have deadlines, so they're going to hear back. They're definitely going to hear back. But I know in my case, I don't always hear back right away. And you know, if my schedule is filling up and I'm worried that I can't give it the attention that I want to, I just get back to them and say, is there anything else I can do to help, you know, with the progress on the project, or is there anything else that, you know, you would like to see, or, you know, just
Right.
offer to help them.
Do you find that, do you usually have their text, like their cell numbers? Do you text them or do you just email? How do you find they prefer to be communicated with for those things?
We
Or
use
call?
Teams. We use Microsoft Teams a lot.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but everybody's different. Some people like email, some people like, you know, calls. But since we've all
So-
gone, you know, since, you know, this whole thing started, most people, you know, want to at least get a heads up before you call them. So,
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's good to know. See, and that's it. You know, ask your people, but that's a really good insight. They like to get a heads up before you call them. So don't just pick up the phone and call. Give them an email and say, I have a question, and maybe do you have time at 2 o'clock, or do you have time now, or whatever, you know, to talk. So that's a really good thing to keep in mind. I find that it differs on people with me. If they give me their cell number, then I can obviously text them, but I don't abuse that. You know, I never text them much. I still use email unless I need something urgent. And I did see some research too, that 82% of consumers like to be communicated with via email over anything else, but they're 2.5 times more likely to prefer text if something urgent is going on. So if it's urgent and you need something, they don't mind text. So maybe you ask them up front, and can I take your text, your cell number, just in case I need to text you if there's something urgent, but I promise I won't abuse that, you know, just asking up front. So I don't know if any of you ever get people's cell numbers and text them, or if you just basically use email.
Sometimes I
Anybody?
but that's usually like a last resort. So I typically will email first, and then if it's something urgent, I'll send a Teams message like Terry and say like, hey, I just sent you something. Could you take a look? Because I think especially with some of our busier technical staff, they get a lot of emails and things can get lost, even if I've marked it as urgent. So a Teams message will go a long way, but if I'm still not getting a response and I really need an immediate response, then I will occasionally text if I have their cell phone number and we've previously discussed like it's okay that I communicate with them via text.
Right. Right. And I think that's important to previously discuss. So I would definitely, you know, especially if you do have things that have strict deadlines, maybe up front, you just tell them, look, here's a way that I would like to make sure that we don't miss any deadlines. May I have your cell number, only to be used for emergency purposes, but is that a way that's acceptable for us to be able to communicate, you know, if I have an urgent matter? And that way we don't get tripped up by emails. I mean, technology doesn't always work. You might send an email and it doesn't even get there, but you don't know because you're just waiting and waiting, thinking, okay, they just didn't answer me back. I had that happen. I had a deliverable due on a Monday. I delivered it on Sunday, the day before. And on Tuesday afternoon, they were emailing me saying, Sandy, this was due yesterday. Are you going to give it to us? I'm like, oh my gosh, I did. I sent it a day early. They never got the email. So by us trying not to pester them, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies because we assume they must have gotten it. Technology isn't perfect and neither are we, but you know, maybe I just like to set up ahead of time. Here are the ways that maybe we can communicate. I'll usually do this. You know, if it's urgent, I'll do that. Here's Teams, here's email, here's calls, but may I also do the cell phone? And they're usually really good about that. They like having my cell phone too, so that if they have something urgent for me, it's a two-way street and you can position it that way as well. You know, if we have each other's cell phones, if there's an urgent matter, we can reach each other that way rather than relying on, you know, email where you get 300 in an hour and then they can't see anything. So that is also helpful. Okay, I'm going to continue on. So even harsh interactions may not mean what they seem to mean. Real quick story here. A friend of mine was telling me that when he was a realtor, he had a great interaction with a client, a customer, and he keeps in touch with them from time to time. So he called this man one time, and when he called the man up this one particular time and told him who it was, the man instantly said, "Oh my God, what are you doing calling here? Don't ever call here again." And he slammed the phone down. Well, so now my friend is like, what in the world did I do? He's racking his brain, killing himself. Like, what did I do wrong? Couldn't figure it out. A couple of days later, he got up the gumption to go to the guy's house and knock on the door. And he immediately said, when the guy came to the door, he started to say, I am so sorry for whatever I must have done. And the man stopped him and said, no, don't apologize. It's not you. It was me. He said, I am so sorry. But at the exact moment that you called, my 2-year-old had just fallen into the fireplace and a fire was burning. I couldn't even think. I just had to get off the phone and get to my baby. And that's what came out of his mouth, but he didn't mean it. But if my friend hadn't had the nerve to go back and ask or try to apologize or whatever, he would have never known that that interaction didn't really mean what it sounded like. So instead of shooting yourself in the foot, you know, racking your brain, trying to think of what you could have done wrong, sometimes it just could mean a conversation to even try to apologize if you've done something inadvertently, but they may then have a chance for you to be able to, so Sandy, have you been reading my journal? I think maybe I have, Terry. But it's amazing, isn't it? Sometimes we just, again, we make up these stories. This must be what happened. And then we kill ourselves. Have a conversation. If you can get up the guts or an email, something, try to find out what happened there, because it's better than the stories that you make up in your mind are worse than probably anything that could have ever happened in real life. So think about that. How do we get the feedback that we need when we're trying to get things done, or even just, you know, trying to get some validation that we're doing the right thing? So first of all, start asking. We assume that they will just offer or do it. A lot of times, you know, if it's really that good, they're going to just do it. They're going to say something. And like you all have said, sometimes they're just so busy, they can't even take a minute to say anything. So start asking. You know, you could say things like, I could really use this for my own marketing purposes, or I'm going for a designation, or some other reason why you might want that testimonial or recommendation, right? So it would really help me out. People love helping other people out and doing nice things for them. So if you just ask them for help, they are more prone to want to do that. Even just if you ask them for a social media recommendation or a review, like on LinkedIn or Facebook, you can send them the link so that they can set up the review and, you know, enter the review, make it easy for them. Okay. So you could do, ask them to send something on Google, or even Yelp has different things, not just food. So make it easy. Maybe you could send a formal survey. In fact, let me just stop this right here for a second. By a yes in the chat, do any of you here send out customer surveys by any means? SurveyMonkey, emails, Mentimeter is a great one for you to be able to do, like what we just did with the poll here. Can you just put a yes in there or a no if you don't? Okay, so Marissa, yes, you do. Rose does, okay. Alexandra, Caitlin, okay. So we do have some people. What services are you using for that? Would you mind putting that in the chat too? Terry does as well. What service do you use, or do you just do an email one? Just so that we can get an idea of what people are using, and you can help out your fellow colleagues on here. But trying to implement the process for your SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is a great one. Oh, Listen 360, awesome. An email or regular mail, that's great. And then you can compile those results and create charts and infographics yourself. Terry, you do a lot of graphics. You can, you know, take those survey results and create infographics that you can use anywhere. So this is great. So a few people do. You might want to start doing that, because the only way you're ever going to know, you know, is sometimes through these surveys. Now I know sometimes they don't even have time for that. So don't make them long, but maybe it's just a few questions. Like, you know, we want to ask you a couple of questions about your last interaction. You know, did you receive what you wanted to? Was it timely? Were you, you know, how was the customer service, or whatever it was that you want to ask? Just find a few questions that will not just give you good information, like to feel good, but also information. Is there anything we could have improved? When I talk about delivering wow experiences, the only way you're going to deliver a wow is if you know what you can improve that you might not have thought of. and they might have an idea for you. So that is something that you can do as well. And sometimes you can just make suggestions. Like, you know, sometimes when I do a conference, I'll ask for feedback, and to make it easy for them, they say, oh gosh, I don't know what to say, but I mean, you were great, but I just have to think about that. And I said, well, if you'd like, I can just send you a few of the comments that people have said to me so that you can include it. And one of them said, yeah, in fact, would you write the letter for me? And if I agree with it, I'll just sign it. So, okay, fine. But sometimes I've just sent them, here's what a couple of people have said to me about how it made a difference. And then they include that in the letter, in the testimonial. So think about how you can make it easy and suggest things, even if it's tough. And when you get those letters, you can just use little snippets here and there. Use it in your email signatures, use it on your web pages, you know, just have on your home page, here's some, you know, a couple of rolling testimonials. Have a testimonial page if you want to. There's all kinds of things that you can do to not only recognize it yourself, but demonstrate it. I mean, there's your third-party validation right there. You demonstrate it to other people. And don't forget to give feedback to others. We talked about that. And if it's constructive, so you do suggest something, don't just criticize. I like using the sandwich method, which is that you start with a positive comment, and then you sandwich the constructive feedback in the middle, and then you close with something positive again. Now, I know that some people don't like the sandwich method because they say, oh, people know that whenever you start with a positive thing, they think something negative is going to come. But who's controlling that feedback? That's you. If you think that that's happening, open with a positive thing sometime and then leave it there. Just give them a compliment and walk away so they don't think, oh, nothing negative. But when I get a constructive thing, I always like to know that I've at least done something right, something well. So I like the sandwich method. And just here's a couple of closing notes as we start to wrap up. Curb your strive to be perfect. You know, it sneaks up on you so quietly, and we are our own worst critics. Because what happens when we make one mistake, then all of a sudden that's what we dwell on. And we start thinking, oh my goodness, you know, they must hate me. They must this, they must have hated that. No, we have to be careful that, okay, we're not perfect. We got to remember that. If somebody calls us on a mistake, we just fix it and move on and don't let it happen again. But I love this quote from Malcolm Forbes. Too many people overvalue what they are not and undervalue what they are. So when we try to be too perfect and then we beat ourselves up when we're not, we're overvaluing the mistakes that we make because we're all human and undervaluing all the good things that we've done. So be careful about being too perfect. And then I really believe that no matter what, gratitude is crucial. And even for the annoying or bad things in our lives, right? I'm going to give you a couple of stories. A friend of mine who has been a friend of mine since we were in fourth and fifth grade. Okay. She lives in New Hampshire. I live in Florida, and her husband a few years back had several strokes. Well, I called her up one day and I said, I'm flying up there to be with you. So, you know, I didn't ask her. I knew we've been friends for 50 years. So I didn't ask her if I could come up. I said, I'm coming. Here's when my flight gets in. I'll be here on that day. Is that all right with you? Is that day good? And she said, Sandy, I don't know if Tom would want any company. And I said, I'm not going up there for Tom. I'm coming up there for you. I'll go with you to the hospital. You go visit him in his hospital room and I'll stay down. I'll bring my work. And I'll sit in the cafeteria and I'll do my work and just wait for you to come in. And at least I'll be with you to support you through this. So I went up. And when I got to the house, I walked in the door, and in the dining room, right in the middle of the dining room floor, was a pair of socks. And I looked at her and I said, what's up with the socks? And she said, well, Tom's always throwing his socks in the middle of the floor. And I'm always getting after him to pick up the socks, pick up the socks, pick up the socks. But what I wouldn't give, if only he were here right now to throw the socks on the floor himself. That has stayed with me for years. Because you know what? We could let it annoy us and let it cause an argument and let, you know, stupid things bother us. Or we could just be grateful that the people that we love are there to even annoy us in the first place. This could work with spouses, children, families, siblings, bosses, coworkers, subordinates. It doesn't matter. If we are grateful for whatever we can be, this stuck with me so much that a couple of years ago, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And in that time frame, my mom had just passed away. 6 months later, my dad passed away. And in between, my husband was diagnosed with lymphoma. And, we've gotten through that. Thank goodness he just passed 2 years cancer-free and in remission. Lymphoma never goes away, so you're always getting tested for the rest of your life, but he's 2 years in remission. It's fabulous. But here's the thing that I thought about. I thought about my friend and the socks, because my husband loves Cheerios. He loves Cheerios, and almost every single day he has a huge bowl of Cheerios, and he puts strawberries and blueberries and almonds and all kinds of stuff so much in the bowl, and then he piles the Cheerios on that by the time you pour the milk in, everything can't stay in the bowl. And invariably, he has a Cheerio that's left on the counter, one Cheerio that he misses, and I have to go and clean it up. And I could get annoyed with this, or I could say what I said to him was, thank you, Marissa, I appreciate that. But what I did was I thought about Cindy and the socks, and I think about Bruce and the Cheerios, and I thought, so what, big deal, it's a Cheerio. But one day I said to him, honey, you are so cute. And he says, I'm cute, why? I said, because every day you miss a Cheerio on the counter and I got to pick it up. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, no, I didn't say it for that. I just think it's so cute because, you just don't see the Cheerio. Well, after that, he started finding the Cheerios, right? And there were no more Cheerios until one day, here comes a Cheerio, but instead of being on the counter where he prepares his meal, it's in my spot at the breakfast bar. And I said, how did a Cheerio get all the way over here in my spot? And he goes, well, I haven't left any for you recently, so I put one there for you just as a gift from me. Oh, Bruce. But you know what? It is just, yes. Oh my gosh, he is a doll. And yes, it is so sweet. It's just amazing when you just be grateful for whatever. You can laugh about it, joke about it. Now we have a little private joke, and every once in a while, yesterday I found a Cheerio in the afternoon. He had gone golfing and I ate my Cheerio because he gave it to me as a gift. So think about how you can just be grateful for everything that happens, no matter what. So I know we're a little over. Oh my gosh. So I won't ask you what you're grateful for, but I want you to just think about that. And I want you to listen to this. Self-care is never a selfish act. It's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer to others. So if you realize your full worth in business and you articulate and demonstrate it to everybody around you, not only will you recognize it, but everybody who matters will also recognize it, and nothing will be impossible for you to achieve. So go forth and wow. Thank you for being here. I'm going to turn this back over to Danielle. Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes over.
That's all right. Thank you so much, Sandy. I really enjoyed your program.
Thank you.
For joining us today and sharing your time. We would like to make a donation to the SMPS Foundation in your name. So thank you again. We so appreciate the information, the tips that you've shared with us all today. Just a reminder to everyone else, please keep an eye on our website and our LinkedIn, and we hope to see you at our future events and hopefully at the member appreciation event tomorrow night. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon.